Well, welcome back in once again, everybody, to another exciting edition of Pick Your Politics. I'm your host, Dennis Silvers. We have a great show for you today. We have one of the candidates in studio that we're going to have a chance to talk to, and he's got a very interesting background. He is running for the Nevada State Assembly in his district, which is 34. So I know we got a bunch of people out there that are living in District 34. So you've got to pay close attention. Anyway, let me tell you a little bit about our special guest, Brandon Davis. As I mentioned, he is a candidate running for Assembly District 34. Brandon is a former candidate for the gubernatorial race in the state of Nevada. He was running as a libertarian, and he is now a committed Republican. He is a successful business owner within District 34, and he runs a digital marketing agency. Brandon's platforms include limited government, which we all like, free markets, which we all like too, and educational choice, which is great because, as everybody in Clark County knows, if they have somebody in school, we're having some issues with our schools here. A lot of issues with our schools here. It's been kind of topsy-turvy, so we're going to talk about that, get Brandon's ideas of what he would do to help straighten that out, assuming we get a new school superintendent, which it looks like we're going to do. And Brandon has been described as a figure of resilience, innovation, and community service because he has been involved in a lot of community service in the past. We'll talk about that as well. Anyway, our pleasure right now to bring Brandon up on camera. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Dennis. Yeah,
nice
glad
to
be
see
here.
you again.
Absolutely. Glad to be back.
Let me start off and ask you this. You have a successful business, a wonderful family. Why in the hell do you want to get into politics?
Yeah, hi. It's a question that I get asked a lot. It's just too important, Dennis. I mean, at the end of the day, my kids. I'm a dad. I have two kids, 6 and 8. And their education, their safety, their future is too important. I mean, this state's too important. I moved here over, I guess, close to 12 years now that I've lived here, and it's an amazing place, and I think it deserves to be fought for.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and I have agreed. You have an open seat in your district. Number one, did that surprise you? And if you did not have an open seat, would you have run anyway?
So we announced our campaign back in August of last year. And, we anticipated, bringing a campaign to the current incumbent, Shannon Bilbray-Axelrod, that she's never seen. She's never really had much of a competitive fight, we'll put it that way. And so we were going to bring it to her. We're really excited for that. However, the seas of change worked in our favor, and Shannon left to go to the Clark County Commissioner race, and so that gave us an open seat. So we were blessed to have that, and we're excited for what we're going to do. But we had planned to run regardless of what happened with the incumbent, because again, as I'm walking around and knocking doors within our district, and I'm talking to folks at the community center, at businesses in different places, and I'm asking them, do you know who your state assembly woman is or state assembly person, and they have no idea. I'll say Shannon Bilbray-Axelrod, they have no idea.
I'm shocked.
Right. Yeah. And this is a person that is going to Carson City and representing these people in this district, and nobody knows who this person is. So I think it's important that that person be ingrained, involved in the district. I volunteer in the district. I work in the district. Right. I live there. I shop there. Yeah. We're really ingrained in the community, so we're excited.
Yeah, that I agree with you. You've got to be involved. Do you know, I don't want to put you on the spot, you have a fairly big district. You know the population of that district? I mean, it's fairly big from what I saw.
Yeah, it's over 74,000 people in each district. They try to, according to the redistricting the maps that were gerrymandered by the Democrats in recent years after the census. It's that number. We've got 40,000 plus registered active voters in the district. And so we've got a lot of work to do to reach out to every single one of them.
Yeah, you do. It's a lot of walking, it's a lot of door knocking, and stuff like that. As you walk around and knock on doors and talk to the future constituents, what are some of the problems as you see it, number one, in the district? And do you think those problems parallel at all with some of the problems in Clark County?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the number one is the cost of goods. What people are feeling at the gas pump, what they're feeling at the grocery store. The cost of goods and services is the number one. As we touch base with families, it's education. That's a big one. They're worried about their kids attending schools that are 48th in the nation. They're worried that as parents, they do not have the choice to choose the right fit for their kids. And we know that almost 80% of people surveyed in the state of Nevada are in favor of school choice initiatives, and yet we're not able to have them implemented because of our Democrat-led majority in the legislature and the teachers union. So we're in a bad spot there. So parents are really worried about that. I think safety is probably the third. That's the third one for them. And when we see every day on the Nextdoor app, somebody's car getting broken into, or something happening in the district, we're worried. We're seeing a lot of restorative justice policies at our high schools. And so, we've got a lot of work to do to fix that. But those are the things that people are telling us that they're worried about.
Yeah. And, it's kind of a shame now that, and I kid, and I know you were endorsed by Stavros Anthony, who was our lieutenant governor, great guy, play golf with him. And you've got a law and order executive branch up there between the governor and Stavros, both retiring from Metro. So they got to do something about these break-ins on these cars, for crying out loud. As an assemblyman, what organizations or agencies, Brandon, or people would you rely on to help you achieve some of your goals?
Some of the folks you just talked about. I mean, Stavros is a leader in our state that I would lean on him. Assemblywoman Danielle Gallant, who has endorsed our campaign as well, as a good family friend.
And she was on a couple of months ago. Yeah, she's absolutely delightful.
Yeah, she's very smart, very intelligent. And so that's somebody that has been there before, that once I do get to Carson City and I'm a freshman, that I can lean on her and I can ask her those questions and be able to have somebody that I can rely on. But, I've reached out and talked to everybody on the Assembly Republican caucus. And so we've got a lot of friends there. But as far as organizations, I think that there's, Nevada Policy, I think, is a great resource that's out there that provides a ton of data, a ton of research, and insights into what works and what doesn't work and how to protect taxpayers. Americans for Prosperity is another great organization that is a lobbyist group that, is up in Carson City. So there's a lot of groups that I think that I can make a phone call to and ask those questions and be able to have those conversations with.
Yeah, no, and that's great for you to be able to do to reach out to get some help with more experienced politicians. Speaking of that, the GOP party in Clark County, there's a lot of talk about this, and people have talked about it that have been on the show previous to you, seems to be fractured a little bit and not getting along as well as they should. Same thing could be said for the federal government, for crying out loud. What's your feeling about that? We need to get some cohesiveness to get what we want in Carson City.
100%. The governor's 75 vetoes must be protected. If those are allowed to come back onto the docket and pass, we are in big trouble. And so it is never been more important than now to make sure that we're working together, right? And yes, we have some folks that lean one way in the Republican Party and some that lean another way and go to different groups and clubs and organizations. But at the end of the day, we've all got to get out there and support candidates. We all have to get out and knock doors. We all have to talk to our neighbors, talk to our families, and make sure that they know the importance of showing up to vote. We had 175,000 people in the state of Nevada not vote in the last election in 2022. that is a huge problem. A huge problem. There was 3,300 alone in my district that didn't vote.
Problem.
If they show up, Stacey Butler, the Republican that ran in 2022, she wins and beats Shannon Bilbray Axelrod. So we're talking about a much different situation in the assembly. So it's incredibly important that we work together. We set some things aside. We can't allow perfect to be the enemy of the good. We have to work hard and get together.
Yeah, well said. Well said. Brandon Davis is our special guest here on Pick Your Politics. And why do you think that is? Why don't you think they're getting out to vote?
I think for a long time, they've been told that their vote doesn't matter, and that's become a big problem. I think that's one of the problems. When people feel that their voice isn't heard, or that the system is rigged, or that there is some sort of, shenanigans happening, that their mentality becomes defeated, right? And they just don't want to show up. So what's the point if my vote doesn't matter?
Right.
And I think that was a big problem. And when we all get involved and we all make our voices heard and we all work together, I think that great things can happen. So that's the one thing. I think we need to start there. We see some different things in our election system right now, such as ballot harvesting and ballot curing, which I'm not necessarily in favor of. I think the lack of allowing a voter ID to vote is a problem. I think there's different things that we could do to make sure that the public knows, and the average voter, we're not talking about your Super 4 voters, the diehard shows up to the Clark County Republican Party meetings.
Right.
Those people, we're talking about the average voter, the person that just kind of shows up, they're on the outside. They need to understand and feel like that their vote counts. And so that's how we get those people to show up.
And that's what I say after every show. You've got to vet all of your candidates to get to know them, get to know their positions, see if they're a parallel with your positions or there's some disagreement. You got to vet the candidates, but the most important thing is you've got to get up and you got to get out and vote, because it's the only way things are going to change. I think Joe Lombardo is doing a great job so far. Did a great job, 2 terms as the Metro Sheriff here. Good guy. Should the governor, they don't have that here in the state of Nevada, should the governor, do you think, be under term limits, because there is none now in Nevada?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I am a fan of term limits. And I hear a lot of people talk about that, because it becomes difficult, especially in the legislature, when it's only a part-time legislature, to get things going and get things moving. But I'm a firm believer in term limits. And I would agree. I think Joe has done a fantastic job. I ran against him in 2022. But that was because there were some things, as a Second Amendment staunch advocate, that there were some things that I didn't feel great about. And I wasn't sure about Joe. And now that I've seen him work and I've seen his plans and I've seen the team, Ben Kiekeffer and some of the folks that he's brought in, the team that he's built, the PAC that he's built, the candidates that he's helping. I mean, all of the things. The guy has done a fantastic job. I'm very, very happy to see what he's done. We're excited to get his support on our campaign as well. But as far as term limits, I'm a fan of those. Yeah,
no, that's great. And I work with the head of the PAC down here, a fellow by the name of Brian Davis, who's a great guy, because the governor has endorsed. Of course, he wants to have all of the Republicans elected so you get the majority back. So he asked me to have these people on the show, which I'm doing, and getting their information and their ideas. And it's really kind of cool. Part of the duties as an assemblyman, Brandon, as you know, is to try and lower taxes. So we're all for that. What would be your plan to lower taxes?
Yeah, I mean, the state of Nevada, excuse me, has some protections in place in regards to taxes and taxation, which is great. I think that the commerce tax is probably the biggest one that I would look at, right? So that was the tax that was passed in 2015, the largest tax increase in state history. It's a gross receipts tax, and so it puts a lot of burden on larger corporations and businesses. And when we see those businesses struggling to create jobs, or when we're trying to attract large companies from other places in the United States to bring them here to Nevada, which we want as part of our economic development, we want to make sure that we're creating a friendly space for those corporations, those businesses. So that is definitely one area that I would look at.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. There are a lot of issues that we're involved with now as far as Southern Nevada. We could go into the water and building and so on and so forth, but you kind of alluded to it a little bit before. In your opinion, in the state of Nevada, the people that live here, that call this home, do you think in any way they might be getting shortchanged because of the legislature meeting every 2 years instead of annually?
Yeah, that is interesting, and I did allude to it earlier. There are conversations, mostly that I hear from, those on the left that think that we should have a full-time legislature, or that we should meet every year instead of every other year. For me, as a limited government staunch advocate,
Right.
I
Yeah, you're between a rock and a hard place on that. I know.
I never want to see more government. I don't want to see more, and that's the thing, is that we have to find a way to fund that. If we were to make it a full-time legislature, or if we were to make it even every year instead of every other year, we have to create funding for that. The Constitution, says that there cannot be any unfunded mandates, right? So we have to figure out that, which, again, that's the taxpayers would have to pay for that.
Right.
So I'm definitely not in favor of that, but it's a conversation that people are having, because we've seen extreme growth in the state since some of these laws were created.
Yes,
So
thank you, California.
yeah, we see a lot of times, especially over the last couple of sessions that we've had a Democrat, majority, that a lot of these bills end up coming in the last few days of the legislature. So I think the conversation should shift from, let's expand out the sessions, or make them more, more often. Let's talk about how we can be more efficient in the time period, the 120 days that we have. Let's start introducing bills sooner. Let's have conversations on them sooner. Let's get them into committee sooner. Let's vote on them sooner, instead of playing political games.
Great idea.
Yeah, and trying to squeeze out one party versus the other. So that's more of the conversation that I'd like to have.
That is a great idea. I think the first thing, Brandon, you should do when you get elected is author a bill to pay you guys more per diem. These guys they make about enough for a hot dog and a Coke per diem up there in Carson City. You need to make more money.
I don't know if I agree, Dennis. I think, being in our government is a public service. Now, if it's a full-time thing, we're talking the governor, we're talking a statewide office. For a legislature, in several other races, I don't necessarily think that there needs to be more money there. You're giving of time of your service, right? It's kind of like volunteerism, right?
True.
I show up, several times a month to the place that I volunteer at, which goes to kids and the less fortunate in Clark County School District. So that is just part of what I do. And so I see the point, and I know that there's some folks out there that are wishing that they made more money, because it does cost money for hotels, it does cost money for Airbnbs or flights or gas for travel, all that stuff to get from here to Carson City. But I personally, at this time, would not be a yes vote on increasing the pay, because again, that comes directly out of taxpayers' pockets.
Yeah, that's true. That's a very good point. And it costs money to go out Friday, Saturday night, and have a few beers or whatever with with your buddies on that. One thing that I find interesting are the way people that have a motive, that are representing a company that needs your vote, can get in to see you guys. It's just amazing to me how that can happen, and I think that's very dangerous.
Yeah, you mean in Carson City at the legislative session?
Yes.
Like lobbyists?
Like lobbyists.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that when so many bills are introduced to members in the legislature, it's very difficult to be able to process all of them. I mean, there's a lot of layers. So
there's a
I
lot
think,
going on.
being able to lean on some lobbyists and ask the questions and, hey, give me the cliff notes on this, that sort of thing, I think is pretty helpful. But, I'm a huge fan of having an open and transparent government. So I think that every single Nevada resident should be able to go in and know what's happening in the legislature and have direct contact to their legislators.
Absolutely.
We saw just recently in the pandemic when they shut down the legislative building and didn't allow public, didn't allow media, didn't allow these folks to get in there. And actually, the woman who crafted those policies was the head of the Legislative Council Bureau. I just saw it today, is no longer a part of that, and they have somebody new running the Legislative Council Bureau. I think his name is Brian. But anyhow, that she's no longer there, which I'm wildly happy about, because anybody who deliberately keeps constituents out of the open halls of our government, I think needs to go. So
yeah, that is not good at all. I would assume, like all of, and I keep saying, it takes 2 or 3 things to run for office, and I don't care what office it is. It takes a lot of time, and it takes money. You have to raise money to hopefully run a successful campaign to get the word out. What are you doing as far as fundraising? I know when you knock on doors, you're giving a pamphlet, this and that. Would appreciate it if you could, send some money to our campaign. Do you have events coming up that people could go to? And if so, how can they follow you? And please give everybody your website, so they can get a hold of you, maybe to donate and to volunteer, maybe to knock on some doors with you.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, we've been talking to businesses. We've been talking to people in our district as we're knocking doors. Most of our donations have come from small, people who live in the district, small-time donations. We've also had some larger ones from, some businesses that feel like they want to have, a voice in Carson City, which is important. So our fundraising has been really strong. We've been really happy with that, and we're going to continue to build. We're going to need to raise about $150,000 in this race to be competitive. So that's the goal that we've set. We're marching forward each month to get there. But yeah, I mean, the website itself is electbrandondavis.com. That's the website. It's got all the information. It's going to show you all the things that I'm focused on, especially universal school choice. That's the biggest one. We need to make sure that we fund opportunity scholarships. We need to support our charters and privates and micro schools. We need to figure out how we can get past, not necessarily get past, but figure out the unfunded mandate issue with the education savings accounts that happened a couple of years ago. We need those vouchers back. We need to make sure that school choice and parental school choice is a thing. So that's my biggest number one priority, alongside occupational licensing and creating safer communities. You learn all about that on the website. You can support us financially there. You can get involved if you want to volunteer. But the awesome thing is, if you're watching this and you're in District 34, which is going to be from Lake Mead to Charleston, Wallapai to Jones, just think of that kind of Summerlin North, slightly east area. If you or somebody you know lives there, I would love to talk with you. Shoot me an email. My phone number is right on the website. You can text me. And I'd love to set up an in-home meeting and just meet your neighbors. I mean, that's the easiest way. Is we're doing this grassroots. We're talking to every single person. We're walking down streets.
That's great.
I see a neighbor that's out, working in his garage, I'm going to walk up and talk to him. So those are all very helpful for us right now.
And probably if you do that and you have Brandon come to your home, he might even bring a 6-pack. I mean,
maybe a guitar. I'll play a tune. Whatever
you could sing or whatever.
That's right.
No, that's a great way to do it, because you're up close and personal, and I think that is a great way to go. How surprised was your family when you told them you want to run, you want to jump in the race?
Well,
what was their reaction?
Yeah, it wasn't that far off, because my wife knows how passionate I am about our kids and making sure that we're fighting the good fight to create a better future for them, right? And so that was what the 2022 campaign was all about for governor. And this is what this campaign is now. So there wasn't a huge surprise because, again, my wife knows me pretty well, and we talk about it. We talk a lot about the things that matter the most to us. She's in educational consulting, and so education, we just, between our kids and her and what we see in our state, like it's something that we talk about every single week. And so it's important that we have a champion for parental rights in Carson City.
Yeah, absolutely, especially in today's day and age. Now, you have to work when you get up there with certain entities in Clark County, I'm assuming, like the Board of Supervisors, like City Council, like Metro and others. Have you established relationships with those agencies already?
We're starting to, yeah.
Okay.
So we've talked to, the firefighters union. We're meeting with them, and we're talking to the police unions. We're talking to builders and contractors unions. I mean, every organization that we can talk to. I mean, women in construction, all of them. We're going and we're meeting everybody. We're introducing our campaign to them, making sure that they know that we're going to be a champion for these specific things that are going to help them in Carson City. That we're going to work hard and build coalitions and be able to do the things that are necessary to make sure that the people in District 34 have a voice that represents them properly.
Okay, yeah. And you've got a lot of small businesses there. And of course, that is the backbone of not only Southern Nevada, but the whole state. It's small business. You've got to protect them, and you got to do what you can for them. And that's very, very, very important. So you're going to a lot of events. I know you got one right after this. You got to get out of here.
We do, yeah. No, it's a lot of events. It's a lot of phone calls. It's a lot of door knocking. It's a lot of going out to community things that are happening. So every day, every week, we're working hard.
Yeah, and it's going to be here before you know it. And like I say, you got to vet everybody comes on the show, see where you might differ from them, and kind of look at their point of view. But you got to get out there and vote, and that is very, 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 very important. The dynamics of your campaign when you have an open seat probably are a heck of a lot different than if you actually had an opponent.
100%, yeah. Incumbents have an 80% retention rate.
Yeah.
There's a lot of organizations, special interest groups, and different things that they will financially contribute and endorse only an incumbent. They won't even They won't even give a sniff to like anybody else. So when you don't have an incumbent, that opens up a little bit. Now they're more amenable to meet with you. They're open to talk with you. So
exactly.
Now we can get in the door and have the conversation and show some of the ways that we align with the organization. And so it's a completely different ballgame. For us, we had a strategy that we wanted to activate all the Republican voters in our district who didn't vote in 2022, make sure that we get them and we establish even if we got to go pick up your ballot and bring it in for you, let's get you to the ballot box. So that's number one. Number two is just the nonpartisan independent voters. Yeah. That's it. We have to talk to them and show, our very moderate, sensible, common sense stance on a lot of different issues and just show that it's going to resonate with them. And so that's kind of our strategy. I think if we get 55% of the nonpartisan vote, we get all the Republicans to turn out, we have a pathway to victory.
Yeah, slam dunk.
Yeah.
Slam dunk. So remember that. Remember the name, Brandon Davis, candidate for Assembly District 34, especially if you live in 34. I'm close to you, but not quite in it.
Okay.
So,
the beauty is you don't have to live in the district to support us, right? And if you go to the website, you can help out. I mean, with having the open seat, we have a real shot. We have a real chance at flipping this district and protecting Governor Lombardo's vetoes and making sure that we've got a balanced government in Carson City.
And that's what it's all about. Yeah. That's very, very, very important. Anyway, Brandon, thank you so much for coming on the show. We wish you the best of luck.
Yes.
Anything we could do, the show could do to help you, just don't hesitate. Let us know.
Perfect.
And we're going to be there. So anyway, that is going to wrap it up for this edition of Pick Your Politics. I've been your host, Dennis Silvers, along with Brandon Davis. And remember, get out and vote, folks. It's coming up very, very, very soon because you make it happen. Anyway, we will see you back same time, same place next week. So until then, so long, everybody. Have a good one.